Hello everyone, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you for joining me and welcome to Def Leppard album ranking. So with the band's 45th anniversary right around the corner, and next year they're going to be taking part in the massive stadium tour along with Motley Crue and Poison, I thought it'd be interesting to count down the band's 12 studio albums. But before we dive into all that, if you are new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please click the button. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by subscribing, you'll be able to stay up to date on all that's going on in the world of music, just like this with Def Leppard album ranking. All right, so we've got 12 studio albums to count down, and coming in at number 12 is their album X or 10, came out in 2002. And so despite the title of it, it's actually the band's 8th studio album. And it was a departure from their signature sound at the time, the band attempting to modernize itself, and they brought in outside songwriters, even featuring songs, original songs, that were not written by the band, something very strange. The album itself sounding more like boy band style music at the time, definitely their most pop sounding album. However, I think they should have built on the success of previous album Euphoria, as it was a more return to form sound. I think they should have continued on that, after the departure of what they tried doing on Slang. Instead, they changed their sound again, which I think both hurt the album and band at the time. All right, coming in at number 11, Yeah, from 2006, 9th studio album by the band. It's comprised of all cover songs, and the only reason that this one here, the album of all non-original songs, actually ranks higher than the album X, the one we were just talking about, is that this one here actually sounds like a Def Leppard album. There was also some interesting song choices, and I think they did some pretty unique interpretations of those songs. Lots of the songs are from the era that inspired the band, the early glam rock years, but it also features a number of 70s rock songs. All of the bands on here are British bands, and I think it makes for a nice, well-rounded but consistent listen all the way through, and a real welcome change of pace for me in terms of their previous album, X. Coming in at number 10, we've got Slang from 1996, 6th studio album from the band at the time. First to feature, I should say, new guitarist Vivian Campbell, who was coming in from Dio and White Snake, taking over for Steve Clark, who had passed away. But this album here was another album that was a departure from the band's signature sound. They attempted to modernize again. Despite these changes, though, there was still a lot to love on the album itself. Lead single, Work It Out, I think was a great example of that modernizing of sound working for the band. There was also a lot of songs that still had some classic feel to them, like Blood Runs Cold and Breathe a Sigh. The mistake, though, was, I think, placing two songs right at the beginning, though, tracks 1 and 2, that had more of a grunge sound to it than their signature sound. I think it caused a lot of people to be turned off and not explore the album properly, which hurt, again, both the band and album at the time. Okay, coming in at number 9, Euphoria from 1999, 7th studio album from the band. This was intended as a return to form album of their late 80s and early 90s sound, and I think several of the tracks on here do just that, best being the first single off of it, Promises, which is a fantastic song. But most of the songs on here sound to me like leftover songs from Hysteria and Adrenalize. To me, they're just lesser versions of already classic songs, sort of like they were trying to write a part 2 to those hit songs. Still, there's some pretty good moments on here. A couple of my favorite songs off the album, Paper Sun and Guilty. Coming in at number 8, Songs from the Sparkle Lounge from 2008, 10th studio album from the band. An album that was supposed to be a return to form album that I don't think quite hit the mark for the band. It did rock, though. And so as the follow-up to X from 2002, and then coming off of the covers album, Yeah, from 2006. For me, it was quite welcomed. It did miss the mark, though, by doing a cover, or sorry, not a cover, but adding in country star Tim McGraw to the song 9 Lives as a duet song. And the mistake that I think that was made in that, it's not so much having Tim McGraw on it, it was that instead of having Joe Elliott start lead vocals. They had Tim McGraw do it. So if this song was on radio, you're not hearing Joe Elliott's signature vocals, what defines Def Leppard. You're hearing Tim McGraw. And if you're listening to a rock station and you hear a country artist start singing, I don't think a lot of people stuck around to figure out this was actually a Def Leppard song. The pairing just did not make sense at the time. It was from left field. I think it caused a lot of people to question the band and not explore the album, and again, it hurt the band. And as you've noticed, there's a number of things that the band does on each album that sort of can cause the fans to shift away and become kind of questionable. All right, coming in at number 7, High and Dry from 1981, second studio album from the band. An album that for a lot of people would be considered their best album. It's a fantastic album for me, but just the band had not quite come into their own yet on here, at least not until the follow-up album, Pyromania. No complaints overall on the album. The album itself just never quite connected with me the way other albums did, which is why it falls where it does in my countdown. Coming in at number 6, On Through the Night, 1980 debut studio album from the band. While it doesn't have the hits like the second album, High and Dry, the album did connect with me more. But I think it's probably because the album isn't full of worn out radio songs the way other albums are. Simply sounds fresher to me in the long run. I find myself going back to this album more and more over other albums, definitely over High and Dry, which for me is why it's ranking where it does in this countdown here, but also in the fact that I think it has one of the best album covers ever, period, in like all of rock. I think that is just one of the most amazing album covers. So, visuals certainly go hand in hand with these. That's one of the reasons I love, physical format music and so forth. All right, coming in at number 5, we've got the self-titled album simply called Def Leppard from 2015, 12th studio album from the band, and finally, a true return to form album from the band. The songwriting on here and the songs themselves, I think, are nearly on par with Hysteria and Adrenalized era songs. The song Dangerous on here has such a classic feel to it. Easily could have appeared on either one of those albums, while the song Man Enough, I think, is trying something new, yet at the same time it's in line with other hits like Pour Some Sugar on Me. And then there's the song We Belong, which all 5 of the band members take lead vocals on, something that was a first for the band. So just in all, I think this album is great top to bottom, and definitely one of their best albums overall, in my opinion, within their catalog. All right, coming in at number 4, Retroactive from 1993. Considered a compilation album, but the songs being leftovers or B-sides from previous albums. However, they were completed with some embellishments and things of that nature, which to me makes this a standalone album in its own right, which is why I'm going ahead and including it in this countdown here. Perhaps the fact, though, that the songs themselves actually span from before the band was signed itself all the way up to present day on here is why the album sounds so good to me. The album itself does not sound like an album of 1993, which I think in the long run is also the album's saving grace when looking back at it. And songs number 1 and 2 on here, Desert Song and Fractured Love, are 2 of the best, most underrated Def Leppard songs in all of their canon, I believe. Coming in at number 3, Adrenalize from 1992, 5th studio album from the band. First to be recorded without founding guitarist Steve Clark, who had passed away after Hysteria. The album itself was recorded as a 4-piece, and the album was an attempt for the band to build on its success of the previous album, Hysteria, which I think they did, and yet at the same time, so growing, but at the same time retaining what it was that made them such a success on that. Not a bad song on this album here. My only complaint is the song title and lyrics to the 3rd song, Make Love Like a Man. I just think this song in and of itself has not aged very well for the band, but the rest of the album has such high quality on it that I can simply overlook that song, for how it's aged and so forth. All right, coming in at number 2, Pyromania from 1983, third studio album from the band. This was my introduction to the band itself. This one here, first one recorded without founding guitarist Pete Willis. Taking over on guitars was a new guitarist, Phil Collen, coming in from the band Girl, which interestingly featured Phil Lewis of LA Guns. Cool band. If you don't know them, do check them out. This one here is where I think the band really finally came into their own. The sound and style of this was very unique from what was going on at the time. The album broke a lot of ground in terms of production thanks to producer Robert John Mutt Lange, basically a sixth member to the band. The whole album is great, start to finish, just simply not a bad song on the album. Okay, and coming in at number 1, Hysteria from 1987, fourth studio album. The defining Def Leppard album, in my opinion. The band made an album unlike any other before or since. It not only changed the band, but also changed the music industry, much in the same way Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction from 1987 changed the musical landscape. So too did Hysteria. The album is just full of hits. Every song on here is a hit. I think no matter what song had been released from here, they would have all been successful. In fact, there's a number of deep cuts that became radio staples anyways, even though they weren't singles. Love and Affection, Gods of War, those are ones we still hear on the radio today. In all, 7 of the 12 songs were released as singles, all of them being hits. When listening to this album, for me, it's basically like listening to a greatest hits. I've heard every one of these on the radio at different time. So for me, that's why it is falling in at the number 1 position in our top 12, or not top 12, but 12 studio album countdown for Def Leppard and the Def Leppard album ranking. All right, so there you go. Don't forget to check the description for links to related videos. And if you enjoyed this video, please share it out on social media. Help spread the word that way. I would also appreciate it. And certainly let me know your thoughts and your comments. Everyone have a great day, and I'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.